Hello, this is a music group, and today we will be talking about
Loops and music.
yes. So, what are loops? As defined by techterms.com, in computer science, a loop is a programming structure that repeats a sequence of instructions until a specific condition is met. Programmers use loops to cycle through values, add sums of numbers, repeat functions, and many other things. So, types of loop. A for loop has an initial expression, unlike while and do while loops. And it starts off by reading the initial expression and then the termination condition and then the body, and then it goes back to the loop expression and then it repeats. And for the while loop, if the termination condition is true, then it runs the body. Whereas for the do while loops, it will run the body and then the while loop and then evaluate if the termination condition is true. Notation to be familiar with. So there's I plus plus or I minus minus, I equals 0, and I is greater than or I is less than, and I is greater than or equal to, and I is less than or equal to. So for I plus plus or I minus minus, the value of I is increased or decreased by a value of 1 each loop. For I equals 0, this is often seen as initializing the variable I to the value of 0 in this example. And for I is greater than or I is less than, it's important to distinguish this from I is greater than or equal to or I is less than or equal to, because of a common error, which is a off by 1 error. And all these notations are used for termination purposes. For now, we have a sample of loops.
Yes. So I'll be sharing my screen. It's just loading right now. But okay, we're here. So this is the code that we have. And we'll kind of be going through this code to understand loops better. So first we have variable I equals 0. This is the initialization stage. So we're just gonna write that. I is 0. Then while I is less than 3, it's going to do console.log I, which is the loop body. So that just basically means to print it. So we're gonna print it here, and then it's gonna add 1 to I. So here we go. 1 is less than 3. Yes. So it's gonna print 1. Then it's gonna add 1. So 2. Then it's gonna compare again. 2 is less than 3. Yes. So it's gonna print, and it's gonna add another 1 to the 2. So it's 3. And then after we finish this part, we're gonna go on to this part, which is what we're gonna do right now. And that's where J comes in. And we're still gonna be using the same console log because we're gonna be printing to the same place. But basically J is initialized to 0. It's basically saying the same thing, but as Bella pointed out, when J is less than 3, the loop is going to continue. So when J is less than 3, 0 is less than 3, so it's going to print. So we're going to print over here, right? And then it's going to add 1. So 1, and then 1 is less than 3. So we're going to print, and then we're going to add 1, 2. 2 is less than 3. So we print 2, and then 2 becomes 3 because we're doing this J++. And lastly, we compare again. J is less than 3. Is 3 less than 3? No, because 3 equals 3. So we can't run or print anything or do the loop body again. So that is where it ends. And basically, this right here is what is printed out. And at the end of this, I is equal to 3 and J is also equal to 3. Okay, and next we're going to be looking at code that we made for our music connection piece for this episode of our content creation. Isabella, would you like to start?
Yes, so this code, this beautiful piece of code, runs code that allows you to write your own song. So Lines 3 to 7 include variables that we declare so that you can input lyrics that are split by sections that are typical to a song structure. And lines 9 to 10 are what will print out your finalized song at the end of this code.
Yes, and starting from line 12 right here, it prints the final instruction is that we will now play your song, and this basically means that it will be able to play through your song and you'll be able to kind of stop the song whenever you'd like to. So first we have print intro in the string form, and then the actual intro, which is the stuff that you inputted in line 3, and then I'll have a continuation statement which asks, do you want to continue, yes or no? And while continuation is equal to string yes, then we're going to print out this verse right here just to let the users know that it is the verse, and we're going to print the verse out, which is what you inputted in line 4, and then this end quotation so we don't see a bunch of \ends, I believe. It's going to ask again if you want to continue, type yes or no. And if the continuation is no, then we're going to end. It basically says you've cut your song short and finished playing your song. And then the break statement here in line 22 just says that we're not going to run any of this code. And yeah, this kind of just repeats for the rest of the code that we have until line 33, where we get to the outro. It kind of does the same thing, and then since there's nothing following the outro, we just end it with a finish statement here, and it lets you know that we finished playing our song or your song that you've made. And Isabella will now share the last slide. Okay, so what are the importance of loops? So loops allow us to repeat a series of steps given that something is true or false, which is iteration. I say true or false because if, for example, it's a while loop while x is less than 3. So while x is less than 3, it's gonna do the loop body. But it can also be false. So like while not x is less than 3. So like while x is 4 or 5 or whatever, then it will do the body, which is like the false. And these are Booleans. But yeah, the second point is that it allows us to shorten our code. So like Bella mentioned earlier, we can cycle through a bunch of values or sums, whatever we want, instead of going through each value, x equals 2, or if x is less than 3, we don't have to just think x equals 1, x equals 2, like we don't have to list everything out. We can just summarize and write one line of code. And like we discussed in class, for code to find whether Hamiltonian paths exist, we'd normally have to cycle through n factorial number of paths, which can be hundreds or even thousands of paths or whatever. But with a while loop, that can be reduced to just a dozen or so lines. And that's really helpful in computer science because who likes to look at a bunch of code when you can just simplify it, right?
Right. So if you write a song, make sure to
keep us in the loop.
Yay! Thank you for listening and watching.
Yes, we hope you enjoyed. Bye.
Bye.